could be keeping the option open in case the country's fortunes in Ukraine worsen, to send a dramatic signal for the West to back off.
All right, so that is happening on the sidelines. As far as we know it, the attention is on Israel and Palestine war, and the development also on rolling back on the CTBT is the latest that you should know. What does it really portend moving forward, that now they're lifting that particular cover, and the Duma Parliament yesterday passed that. The position taken by Africa Union is in support of a free Palestine. Kenya must abide by this position by virtue of being a member of the AU. This is what the Muslim communities or the Muslim leaders are really calling for. As far as you can see, they're asking that we sever ties with Israel over Gaza Muslim leaders. That is what they are urging. And just want to pick up from there, and we begin with Peter Kagwanja on this latest development so far and the position of the AU. I know we've discussed this, and just looking at the clips that we've also played, the stand of Russia that they are proffering a hand of mediation with their own wars still ongoing, and their position that the two-state solution should be observed, as was a stand with the United Nations at the end of the day. And this is what also the Palestinians have been calling for, that a two-state solution should be streamlined, but it's never been realized up to now. So what has been your views, or just looking so far with the current state of play?
I think first we observed that the attack on Israel by Hamas was very, very interesting, because it came when it was least expected, and nobody expected Hamas to inflict such a damage on Israel. And that tells us about the changing nature of war in our times. That is, the so-called underdogs are no longer underdogs. They can inflict a major damage on countries. So that's the first point to observe, because the technology of war is changing, and the technology of war is becoming accessible to countries that were not thought they could have that kind of technology. Therefore, it is very important that even big powers, countries that consider themselves major powers, begin to think twice before they kind of think of other players. The second point is that we are seeing the diffusion of war violence from Ukraine, Russia, now to the Middle East, and these two are not disconnected. There's a very silent connection between the two, and those are that particular position is coming out very clearly within the statements that are being made within the United Nations Security Council. And Russia has come out unequivocally in support of the Palestinian cause, and obviously America has not only made the statements, but have actually moved its warships closer to Israel, to support Israel in any eventuality. So the issue here is that what is happening between Hamas and Israel is a mirror image of what is happening between Ukraine and Russia, and there's that correlation that one can make. What position should Kenya take in this matter? And I think this is what the Muslim community is talking about. I've always said we have come from far. We started off by being an icon of radical Pan-Africanism, or if you wish, variant Pan-Africanism. If you recall the statement of Mandela in regard to Kenya, they inspired his violence, the Mkonto Wesizwe. Kenya inspired, Jamaica. That's the Mau Mau are gods and angels, and that's how books are coming out. In the streets of Havana, in Cuba, we have the effigy of Jomo Kenyatta, and what they are bringing out is Kenyatta the fighter, Kenyatta the leader of the Mau Mau, and so on and so forth. So that was the image of Kenya. Then we swung to the west, and we became these milk and water liberals, and who are in the thumbs of the Americans and the Westerners throughout the Cold War and so on. Kibaki brought some useful neutrality. That was what the Rukist policy was about, some neutrality. My position is that the future of Kenya is that of positive neutrality, or based on our interest. Why do I say so? Because the statements we've been making in the last couple of months regarding developments globally, even the way we are moving in terms of alliances, we're missing the fact that at this juncture, our future is being the Switzerland of Africa, not being that war, aligned sharply. That does not mean that we don't take positions on issues. But when we take hard positions, like writing a 2-page statement in support of Israel at this age and time, we forget that we have our own population is also observing us. I have said again and again, Kenya is at the vortex of the meeting of communities. In this country, we have the Kushites, we have the Nilotes, we have the Bantus, we have all communities, and we have perhaps the largest white community on the continent, apart from South Africa. And therefore, our position is recent too. Why did Switzerland take its position? It chose its position because it has the Italians, it has the Germans, it has the French, it has every community within itself. So in order to maintain peace within your own country, when you are as diverse and multicultural as Kenya, common sense calls on you to observe some form of positive neutrality. And positive neutrality means that you accept that what Hamas did was a terrorist act. Israel did not deserve that. At the same time, Israel should have addressed the whole question. For the last couple of decades, Israel has been squeezing the Palestinians to the point that it's like that boiling kettle. At some stage, it has to explode. And these are the kind of explosion we're seeing. The two-state solutions has not been observed. And now the reaction to Hamas is now beginning to become a genocide. So you are not going for Hamas, you are going for the population. Again, which is counterproductive. So in a sense, that is the position one would expect from Kenya. A very well thought out and with leading to a certain solution. And what is the solution here? A solution that recognizes the human rights of the Palestinians and a position that recognizes the right of Israel to exist. That's all.
All right. Okay, let's hear from Mheshimiwa with this latest development as well, and the Muslim community saying that we should go the AU way, where it is in support of a free Palestine. From a standpoint of view from the Ministry of Defense and Foreign Relations, what will be your reaction?
Well, as the professor has said,
yes.
we're a multi-ethnic, multi-religious country. And therefore, in any particular action that we take, we must look at our national interest. How to keep peace and stability in our country, how to have cohesion and take our people together. Our foreign policy should not be determined by one individual decision that puts us right into the heart of a crisis, which is not of our making. And when it comes to the issue of the Palestinians and the Israelis, we have a position, we've always had a position as a country that we recognize the right to self-determination of the Palestinian people. We recognize that Palestine is occupied, and we have always called for the end of the occupation and the creation of a two-state system, which is the just way to go. So that has been our position. But when we actually make a political foreign policy decision that does not uphold that, then obviously we have a problem. But let's look at what is happening in that region now. You know, you haven't shown in any of your reports the horrific bombing of the Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital, in which more than 900 people were killed. And all the news agencies have pointed at the fact that this was a missile attack from the Israelis. This is one of the biggest outrages of this particular conflict. How long would it take for the world to stop this particular conflict? Because how many Palestinians must be killed? How many war crimes must be committed? And now even the attempt by the United Nations Security Council to call for a ceasefire has been blocked. So what is the way out of this? Are we going to license the genocide of the Palestinian people? That's because what we are seeing now is civilians who have been bombed. The majority of the people who've died are young children. In this hospital attack, there is a father who is carrying the bits and pieces of his child in a plastic bag, holding it like that. What kind of humanity is that? And how long can we be silent about that? We must really call for an urgent cessation of hostilities. We must also call for the opening up of humanitarian assistance, because Gaza is under siege. There's no water, there's no electricity, there's no fuel, there's no food going in. It's completely sealed off from the rest of the world by one of the most powerful military forces in the world. The state of Israel is pounding these civilians. They're not attacking terrorists. So the question is, why is the West supporting and is the West accomplice to this murderous mass atrocities that's been committed by Israel? Secondly, why are they refusing a ceasefire to protect the civilians there? Does the lives of the Palestinians as human beings don't matter? Does the lives of the children of Palestine don't matter? Are the Palestinians not part of our humanity? So these are the questions that we're asking, is not been answered to. And everybody is emphasizing one particular element of the conflict without looking at the historical roots of this particular problem. What are the historical roots?
Right.
Israel and Palestine is a settler, occupied situation. The Palestinians do not have any rights. They don't even have the right to defend themselves. And yet we are now watching their extermination. It's not acceptable. We must call for a ceasefire. We must assist the Palestinian people. And Israel must be condemned for the mass atrocities it is committing in the land of Palestine.
So, from your assessment, do you think there is a doublespeak, as has been expressed by
Absolutely.
the UN representative there?
There is, in fact, a double tragedy. First of all, the only institution now that is capable of addressing this issue of peace and security, the best institutions we've had since the Second World War, is the United Nations. And the organ that deals with peace and security is the United Nations Security Council. Western countries, the United States, UK, France, have all rejected an attempt to resolve that issue through peaceful means. What other option is there? They have made the United Nations toothless, incapable of doing anything. And the people of Gaza are on their knees. They are suffering. They're starving. They've been bombarded. And now, even hospitals are not exempt from the attack. Hospitals are attacked. Schools are attacked. Civilians are attacked. This is a major violation of international law. Why is the world not speaking out of that? That is a double standard. They're willing to speak out when it comes to Ukraine, but why are they not speaking out when it comes to the issue of Palestinians? Are the Palestinians not human beings? Don't they have a right? Do the children of Palestine not have rights? So these are the questions that we're asking, and the West must surely make a decision that would resolve this particular situation by opening up humanitarian assistance, by stopping the war. Stop the killings. Let's stop the killings. And when President Biden is there later today, what is he going to do? Is he going to be a cheerleader to cheer the Israeli army in the killing of the Palestinian people? Or is he going to call for a ceasefire and a negotiated settlement to this particular problem? That's the big question.
That's a big question. So, yes, sorry. We're inclined to wonder, as you said, they were very quick off the mark to make responses during the Russia-Ukraine invasion. But right now, everyone is twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a statement from the United nations in this regard. And we can even point towards our predicament here with Rwanda, where the international community never responded very quickly as it is. So where is there a slow off the mark pickup on this reaction? And everyone is reading some biasness in this, as has been expressed also by the UN representative from Russia.
Thank you, Deepal. Let me respond to the question earlier and then I come to what you just asked. First is it's clear with the Hamas attack on Israel. It's clear to me that a very new configuration of military hegemony is actually emerging in the Middle East. And the fact that Hamas was able to do this surprise attack against all odds, and the intelligence agencies are just working in the Middle East, from Mossad to M16, from M16 to CIA. The question is, where were they? But then the panic with which the state of Israel has responded with its Western allies, it's also telling that they have actually recognized this new phenomenon that is emerging in the Middle East. And now, in direct answer to the question you asked, the response that we are seeing, from particularly the West and many other allies of either the Palestinians or the Israelis, is because of this new phenomenon, but it's governed by their own national interests. America is supporting, Israel, as it has been traditionally, with a very strong Jewish lobby in the United States. You don't expect America to do anything else other than to support the cause of Israel. The continent of Africa, as usual, is divided. Actually, the AU has strongly come in support of the Palestinian cause, but there are some other countries in the continent that have gone the direction of supporting Israel. The question we were grappling with earlier, which direction should we
Are you
go?
furtively not mentioning Kenya?
That's where I'm coming.
Okay.
The question we were grappling with earlier is, which direction do we take as a country? Kenya. For me, we need to be cautious without being inactive in responding to the situation in the Middle East. Bearing in mind that the direction we have taken historically in the history of foreign policy before has made us suffer as a country. I'm sure you remember the direction we took in support of Israel in the 70s led to the bombing of the Norfolk Hotel in 1980, if my memory serves me well. Much more recently, Kikambala Hotel.
Was that related to the Operation Entebbe?
Yes, Operation Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt, yes.
Which was to rescue the Jews who were hijacked by the Air France and taken to Uganda and strongly supported by Amin. Kenya as a country stood by Israel. We were a very important base here through which they staged the operation. And we paid dearly because of that. Subsequently, we are paid because of our position as an ally of Israel. Kikambala was bombed. Remotely, Westgate, had some links with the fact that we support the nation of Israel. But what I'm calling for is we need to appreciate, Dibal, that violence from any quarter, from any nation, or from any group remains violence. And violence begets violence. Retaliation using violence will beget more violence. So what one will call for is respect for human life, respect for international law, and also avoiding violence, because and retaliation, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. It's Mahatma Gandhi, that great soul of India, who reminded us of that fact. So the sanctity of human life needs to be respected, whether we are dealing with the state of Israel or we are dealing with the Palestinians. Both of them have a right to self-determination. I can't say anything against that. As a country, we are a country, Kenya, today because of self-determination. The Israelis have a right to their nation. The Palestinians have a right to their land and the nation. But what we are calling is an international community that will advocate the respect for the international law, respect for human life, and finally, condemnation of violence from whatever source.
Okay. So I wanted just to ask the issue of regarding now moving forward, where, as you can see, the publications that are here is a pogrom in Israel. You of the fact that also the Western media has taken a bias on this, and most medias are not also showcasing what is really happening in Palestine in the first place, because it should be a pogrom in Israel and Palestine, where there is an extermination that people are saying of Israel, but also there's extermination of Hamas, as I say, that Israel has now declared war, and we might be in this battle for the long overdue, or not really long, for the long haul, I should say, not long overdue.
But Israel is not fighting Hamas in Gaza. Israel is fighting the people of Palestine. Israel's bombing, indiscriminate, devastating bombing, is first focused on the Palestinian people. And the 2,000 plus who've died, majority are children. So it's not a question of, there's no way, it's not as if Hamas is a military force, conventional military force sitting somewhere waiting to be attacked. It isn't. This is a very uneven conflict in the sense that you're dealing with a nuclear power nation, with one of the most sophisticated and the most powerful military forces in the world. It has been caught in an uncomfortable position by being attacked by surprise, by a ragtag, unknown element. And as the two professors have said, this is a clear indication of shift in how wars have been fought and the changing, image of war in the world. But at the end of the day, here we're dealing with civilians. Gaza is an occupied territory under the control of Israel. The West Bank is an occupied territory under the control of Israel. Gaza is not a state. West Bank is not a state. There is no an effective, recognized Palestinian state that can stand on its own. And what we are seeing now is the fraying of the whatever relationship that existed in the Middle East is falling apart. We're seeing outrage. We're seeing responders that are going to destabilize the whole of the Middle East. And when the Middle East is destabilized, the whole world is destabilized. And that's why I am surprised that there is no attempt to pull back from the brink of what we're facing here in the Middle East and to put pressure on Israel to stop this conflict and sort other means of resolving this particular problem. And in this particular case, Israel has been armed even more further by the United States and by the Western European countries. It is receiving more funds. It has just asked for a $10 billion assistance from the United States to pursue this conflict. So the West is an accomplice in the killing and the extermination of the Palestinian people. The West is standing by to give support to Israel to commit genocide in Palestine. And there is no way this is going to benefit either Israel or Palestine or humanity in general.
Right.
It is time to stop this carnage, come to our senses, put a stop to it, and find more viable ways of dealing with this historical problem.
So I wanted just to ask a question, that you being the virtue of any regional bloc, in this regard we talk about African Union, Does that also take you or take away the fact that you can have a voice of yourself independently and not really lose your head? You can still have your head and make a decision regardless of what the African Union has taken. If you don't believe this is the standard you want to actually align with, you have freedom.
Yeah, of course. We're a sovereign state. But are the decisions that we're making in the best interest of our country and the future of our country? What would happen to our own relationship? Because this is a divisive issue. People are taking their own decisions. We're going to be a divided country. We're already divided politically on our own domestic issues. Should we also be divided on international foreign policy?
Right.
Shouldn't we not have a cohesive principle, a principled foreign policy that is based on the right to self-determination, that is based on equality of nations, that is based on the principle of international law? That's what we should be.
Right.
And by taking decisions that may favor one particular group or the other, may not be in our best interest and for the future of our country.
From the religious community as well, you have a church that has spoken on this regard as well, and they've taken the position that we should take the principle of neutrality, or non-neutrality. Yes, the principle of neutrality exists. So we don't lean Palestine, we don't lean Israel. Muslim community, they're saying we lean what African Union is saying, which will be the principle of neutrality should hold sway, so that at least we don't have a divide and a chasm and the rift that is widening by the day.
I think the African Union position was not leaning on Palestine. Let's be clear about that.
It was.
The African Union position was that we look at this matter from a root cause approach. The root cause, what is causing this, so that you get a more permanent cure of the situation rather than what we are getting.
So from a two-page reader, it was not clear where it was leaning.
The African Union?
Yes.
No. The Kenyan position is the one which had the two-pager.
Sorry. Thank you.
Two-pager.
Right.
We were very elaborate about how we support Israel and so on and so forth. Now, that's the position. Now, it is true what you're saying. We are not beholden to all the time go to the African Union position if it is not in our interest. And I'm one of the advocates of the Kenya-centered, interest-centered Kenyan policy. So if the African Union is not in our favor, in our position, we can always try to influence that position. And we as a country have a pivotal position within the African Union, because since the start, I think we are the only country that has consistently been in the African Union Peace and Security Council. I know South Africa has been in and out. Nigeria has been, it's us and Algeria who have almost been constantly there. So we have an influence from our position in Addis Ababa to their position. But what has happened now is that we are having kind of a rogue approach to both regional and global matters. And I dare say so. Take, for example, it is important to always find the vibes that are driving country. When there was a coup in Niger, we were among the first African countries to come out and condemn the coup openly. And when things started unlevering, we found ourselves with mud on our face. Why? Because the countries of West Africa started saying that this is a coup against French. It's not a coup against a leader within Africa, and therefore it was a good coup. And now the African Union itself retracted. Even ECOMOG retracted. And therefore we are now left here alone, us versus the rest. And I think that's where the problem is coming in.
Thank you.
So what we would urge is not basically what you'd call benign neglect, that you don't issue a position, you hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. That's not the position one is advocating. You have a moral obligation to give guidance to the world from where we sit about what direction position we take. And everybody knows that the situation in Palestine has been against the Palestinian people, and that there has been gross abuse. At the same time, Israel is facing perpetual threat of extinction as a country. Therefore, that is what has shaped this issue. So can we argue for the Palestinian state and argue for an Israeli state? The two-state solution has always been what everybody has gone for, which guarantees total freedom and right for the Palestinians. And that is what the African Union statement is saying, that we support the freedom. They're not saying they are not supporting Palestine or Hamas. They don't even mention Hamas. They said the freedom of the Palestinians. Who can't support the freedom of the Palestinians?
Who can't support the freedom of Palestinians? All right, let's just hear from you as the prepare headline.
Just weigh in very quickly. I'm in agreement generally with what my colleagues are saying. And I will add not anything new, but say, as a country, I feel that we have been fairly less cautious and a little bit amateurish in the way we have pursued our foreign policy in much more recent occurrences around the world. That is for a fact. I don't think that's something that needs to be debated. You see, I said earlier that what we need is caution in our pursuit of what we need to do or how we need to approach the issue in the Middle East. I advocate caution because the Middle Eastern crisis is a very divisive phenomenon, even in our own country. Whichever position we take, whether we support Israel or we support the cause of Palestine, it will cause some tension, it will cause some problem in certain sections of our population. So as we pursue as a country, our position towards the crisis, we need to think of those social aggregates that constitute our nation, who can easily get offended in whichever position that we take. If we go against Palestine, there will be consequences.
Right, this is a developing story. I need just to cut you, Dr. Ken Ombogi, because of time as well. So we can actually broach this. We continue with the latest development next week. I want to thank you so much for a valuable contribution. Just give maybe 10 seconds for your exit remarks as well. Well, briefly, today being in Parliament, what do we expect as well? Just briefly.
But I also want to say that, in fact, we really need to, the world needs to quickly act on the issue of Gaza and save the people of Gaza from the pain and the suffering that they're going on through.
Indeed.
Towards the Mashujaa Day, I think we should reflect on our history of struggle, history of resistance. We shouldn't forget the heroes and heroines who have contributed to the kind of society that we have, to people who've given up, given their lives, paid the ultimate price for us to be free today as an independent country.
Indeed.
We must focus on those heroes and heroines.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Well, let's hear from
I'll take it from where Mheshimiwa left it in terms of using this opportunity of the celebration of our 60th Mashujaa Day, and as we move to our 60th Jamhuri Day, that we need to reflect back on what kind of a country we are trying to build. Whether the country we are building has echoes in our national anthem, which is a country of justice, a country of prosperity, and a country where the fairness reigns supreme. The Mavoko case does not bear us out. The consistent case of how we are articulating ourselves globally does not bear us out.
Thank you, Prof.
And therefore we need to move towards that.
Right.
Two quick ones.
No, let's just take one.
One is away from the diplomatic posturing and bilateral machinations that we are seeing about the Middle East crisis. we really need to uphold the sanctity of human life. That life is either of the Palestinians, Hamas, or that it's the life of the Israelites or all those involved. Number two,
we wanted one. Number two,
very quickly, as somebody from the academy, we need to begin to have a conversation on our freedom struggle and call out the political leadership that has used the clarion call that we fought for independence as an entitlement of state resources at the expense of other people.
Thank you.
In the country.
Thank you, gentlemen. Once again, thank you very much. Because of time, we can't, of course, go on. We can pick up on this next week with the latest development as well. And looking forward to, of course, celebrating Mashujaa Day, the day after tomorrow, where the issue of freedom and hacking back into history and how injustices have been done as well. Just also acting as a segue on the visitation by His Majesty, the King of the UK, that is King Charles III as well. So thank you very much for your valid company. You raised the issue of an eye for an eye will make the world blind, as Mahatma Gandhi said. But when you come to that particular issue of the lex talionis, as they call it, the law of retribution in kind, is it taken out of context? Did he also take it out of context? That is Mahatma Gandhi, right? It will have been fair for an eye than an eye for, a corpse will have no one in the world at the end of the day, because of anyone who has been cut an eye will go for your neck and kill you. Right. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching Global Today. Up next is News Diary.